Inscríbete y obtén 400 pesos de regalo. Caliente.mx. Más acción, más diversión.
Gracias por seguir con nosotros en este tercer y último día de actividades del Summit de la Liga MX 2022, Anacati.
Así es momento ahora de enlazar con una referente de la conducción deportiva y recientemente muy ganadora del Emmy, Adriana Monsalve, quien está con Paul Michael, el directivo del AS Mónaco, para platicar del modelo con el que se rige la escuadra del Principado. Adelante, Adri.
Thank you, Anacati, Jorge. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys today at this summit of Liga MX, here alongside Paul Mitchell, now sports director of AS Mónaco from League One. With vast experience in football, has been an important key in the development of clubs like Southampton in English Premier League, in the success of Tottenham Hotspurs, and Leipzig in Bundesliga, a club that is recognized for acquiring young players with a resale value. This is Paul Mitchell with us. So welcome, Paul. I'm Adriana Monsalve, Televisa Univision sportscaster. It's a pleasure to have you and to have this conversation with you. And we're going to be talking about Monaco and its sports model. So my first question would be in this presentation, how do you describe yourself as a businessman?
First of all, thank you for the invitation. I've been excited since the end of the season to come and speak to you guys and hopefully have a really great discussion and explain what we've been doing the last years at AS Mónaco and in Cercle Bruges. To answer the question, how do I describe myself? Demanding, I would say, some others maybe say some less complimentary words. Hardworking. I would say someone that likes to push the boundaries of football and find new concepts and innovations to enhance our performance. And unfortunately, someone, especially for my staff, that is never satisfied. So yeah, that probably sums me up.
Oh, that's great. That's great. It's really hard to please everybody. So you have a background in football, both as player and as a director. How did you bring all that experience to the Monaco's table?
Well, my football career was
really short.
I would say pretty short. Yeah, I retired quite early in my early 20s after sustaining a nasty leg break injury in a game in the English lower leagues. I don't think I was a great loss as a player to the game, for sure.
Oh, come on.
No. I was. I have.
You would never know. You would never know.
I have to be honest in my appraisal, like I do my job. But it gave me a great head start. I was in a small club back then. I had a great chairman that really looked after me. He gave me my first start, my first job on the business side of the game and not on the grass. I went through my coaching badges. I worked in every area of the football club, to selling tickets, to selling boxes in the stadium, to sponsorship, to coaching young players in the academy. I did everything back then. I had a really rounded job, but it gave me a great insight to how the business of football, but also the performance of football worked and had to work in tandem to be successful. So it was a really great apprenticeship. And then that took me to Southampton, then to Tottenham, then to Red Bull with Leipzig at first, and then into being the technical director of the whole global organization in Red Bull, and then on to Monaco. So I've accumulated vast experiences. Fortunately, I've been very lucky to do that in multiple leagues. I think at this point I've worked in League One in English football, Championship, Premier League, Europa League, Champions League numerous times, German football, Brazil, MLS, supported Austrian, our development team in Austria, Red Bull Salzburg, and now French and Belgian football. So I love the challenge of a new environment, new markets, new learning, new culture. And that's kind of how it shaped my experience base and my knowledge base as where I am today.
So what all these clubs that you have worked before and now Monaco have in common in order to have Paul Mitchell in those organizations?
I have to be honest. I can be, and we use this word a lot in football. People on viewing in will hear project all of the time. It's like a very modern concept of project. But the big thing for me and what really does inspire me is a real project. You know, when an owner or a major shareholder or a group of shareholders come to me and with an inspired idea, with a clear vision that is surrounded about working in a modern way with real process and structure, and want to grow and develop, then my ears usually stand up, my senses usually are enlightened, and then, you know, the conversations build from there, and I challenge the ideas, the visions, and the details of them, and then I try and make the best decision I can. I know there's many great practitioners in the world of football, in the space I work as a director of football. You know, we all have our styles, we all have our philosophy, you know, and I have my way. I like to work very process driven. And yeah, that's how usually clubs get my attention, with something to really build, really get my teeth into, and really modernize and add great practices and processes in.
Interesting. It has been 5 years since Monaco won the Ligue 1, and it had been hard. It has been really hard to compete in UEFA club competitions. What was your diagnostic when you arrived to the club?
Yeah, I found a club of quite ill health. If I'm honest, on the performance side, they've done a lot of good work on the business side, I have to say, but on the performance side, we was really failing. We had a bloated squad of over 77 fixed professionals. That isn't young professional. That's fixed senior contracts within the club. That was far too many. We had an injury list that was spilling out of the treatment tables and out of the treatment room. We were measured as the team with the lowest fitness within the league. We've just broken for COVID and we were 9th, but we'd only won 3 games out of 13 under the young coach that was in situ at the time. The season before that, we nearly got relegated on the last day. We finished right near the bottom of the league, 1 place out of relegation. And during those 2 years, we'd spent 350 million euros. So, and we were the 5th biggest spender in the world.
Wow.
So to say the club wasn't in a good place, maybe a little bit of an understatement. It's probably why I look a bit grayer and fuller around the cheeks these days. But for me, I saw a great opportunity, a great club with great history, as you said, with a lot of hard work in front of us, but an opportunity to try and rebuild a great club and a great organization. You know, we own 2 clubs. Our shareholder owns 2 clubs in Belgium and France, and to kind of redig and rebuild the foundations and platforms in a modern way that can really inspire, let's say, the legacy and the future legacy of the club again.
So that would be one of the most used kind of worked lately in football. Like, they've been having franchises in different leagues in different countries. How do you think that kind of business it's helping football teams?
Yeah, it's growing, isn't it? We see a lot now in modern football of multi-club ownership. I think Man City and Red Bull both kind of were the founding fathers of that model. I think both have different strategies and philosophies. Both are being successful within their own styles. It's more common now. Our owner purchased Bruges, I think, under the same vision. To develop players, to have a synergy of work and cross transferables of intelligence that can enhance 2 clubs at the same time. but the reality is very difficult to implement and execute. You have two always competing cultures. You're in two different countries. You're in two locations, and pulling all to that together is hard. I think we've done a great job. It's taken some heavy recruitment in the infrastructure side, on the personnel side, on the staffing side. We have a wonderful Mexican technical director, Carlos Aviña, that we managed to headhunt from Club America. We have great staff in both clubs, and you can see the fruits of our labor now. The team finished the highest it's been placed in a decade. It has the youngest team in 10 leagues, our Belgium team, and Monaco is the second youngest team in France, and finished back-to-back on the podium, been in one cup final, finished the semi-finals, narrowly defeat on penalties, and got to the last 8 of Europa League. So a real change in momentum, a real change in dynamics, a real change in strategy. And I think we find a nice balance in that football space of multi-club investment at the moment.
Every year we see it is more difficult to compete with the powerful teams in football. That's our reality. The one with more budgets to acquire the best players and the best coaches. And the best example, you have it really close on PSG in League One. What is Monaco's current situation?
Yeah, I think I get asked this question a lot because we see this phenomenal spending machine that is PSG. So we can never, and we know we can never match them euro for euro, but we do have to find creative, intelligent processes and practices to try and bridge that gap. That has got to be the challenge. We often talk about the rival to the expected. The expected, of course, is PSG in our league. And we've got to push ourselves. We've got to push ourselves with the idea at one time, if we can get close enough with the way we work, the beliefs, the principles of work, the understanding of our culture, with great people, that we'll get a moment in time that maybe there's a transition moment in PSG. Maybe there's a moment they're not quite at their optimum, and we have to be ready, and we have to try and year by year smallen the gap in a different way. And then if that moment comes, we've got to be ready to take it.
How do you design your team? Like the what kind of people you need to be surrounded with? Yeah,
I think good people. I know it sounds really simplistic to say, but you've got to be comfortable with people's skills, qualities, characters. Good people have opinions. You've got to be prepared to listen, you've got to be prepared to debate, because they can really enhance what you do. They for me, I've always had a philosophy and mindset: the better the people, the better I have to be. So it always keeps me a little bit out of my comfort zone. Always makes every day a positive challenge, because really top people that I've worked with and are working with, they want the best every day. So they keep you on your toes. They challenge you to be better. They challenge you to think more, work harder. And they're the type of people I like to surround myself with. I don't like people that just support my opinion. I don't like people that are just in it for the paycheck. I like people to really believe in what we do. I like people to work hard. I challenge people to do that. But I like people that challenge me, and I like people with real quality. And then people, they have a little ego. They can be complicated. They can be different. But I love that, because I think that is the way we bridge the gap of spending. Having people that think differently, that can look at problems from a different angle and perspective, and come up with great solutions.
So what is the structure of the club?
Yeah, well, our current club is I'm tasked with overseeing our investment in football in the two clubs. But we have very similar kind of structures down within. You have myself as the sporting director, answering to the direct major shareholder of the organization. Then we have kind of 5 direct reports to myself. You have the head coach, of course, with his technical team. You have the director of performance, overseeing mental, physical, nutrition, psychology. and everything around that physical and mental well-being and performance sector. You have the technical director that oversees scouting, recruitment, and performance analysis. And you have the academy director that oversees the whole arm of the academy. We have a little bit of a hybrid role that sits between the technical director and the director of performance. We have a head of data and technologies and insights that reports and supports both performance and the technical director. And then we have a hybrid, smaller scale, similar structure in Cercle Bruges with Carlos as technical director that has a relationship with all our senior management. And then he has direct reports, similar like head coach, head of performance, head of the second team, et cetera, doctors, etc.
So you mentioned before that Monaco is one of the youngest teams in Europe. What is the key to generate good players? How Monaco is handling grow youth players?
Yeah, I think some of it's belief. It's the market is changing. You can see in the evidence and the analysis that teams, even some of the biggest in the world, are buying frequently younger now. So from the business side, it makes a lot of sense to grow the product of the players to the super clubs. That's always an ambition to create sustainability. But for us, it's very much belief. Building the structure and platforms, when you have that opportunity to maybe recruit externally, firstly looking inside your academy, seeing there's a profile that just needs the platform or elevation to the first team, being patient under criticism, being patient under maybe the navigation of some not so positive results, and entrenching that mentality and that belief system into the club. And we lost it a few years ago. We bloated our first team squad list that made the academy detached. There was no route for the young players. Now we're back to having 9 academy products, playing actively in the first team, making debuts this year. And that's really the core essence, is making sure you have a streamlined structure that players and talent can flow between, and people sat around and in that structure that really believe in the growth and talent development of your players.
So you mentioned that the criticism is going to be there in those kind of situations. How can you tell us a little bit about the story when you were in Leipzig, and is I'm not mistaken, you were part of Erling Haaland situation. How do you manage that kind of player, and how do you manage the criticism and do what you think is right for the player and for the club?
So unfortunately, I wasn't really around the Erling Haaland situation. Okay. So I can't really comment in too much depth. At that time, I was in my global role, and we was currently restructuring our team in Brazil. So I find myself on a very different time zone. I kind of wish I had that moment again. I probably would have been actively more involved than I could be, because I think he would have been a great addition from Salzburg to Leipzig. He was actually the first player that didn't make that movement between the teams. We've all seen the great career that he's gone on. So, one that I wish probably I was still in Leipzig to try and help and support to deliver.
Okay, yeah, that would be awesome. That would be great. And what is you have worked with different scenarios and how to acquire players. What is the one you want to install in Monaco?
I think the biggest thing for me is kind of reputation, and a level of integrity of your organization, that when you're in the market, that players, parents, agents, clubs know what you are, know what you're trying to do, and know the benefit of coming to you above other opportunities, because good young talents always have opportunities. And that's why we have to put the right infrastructure in place. We have to show the right results. We have to show the right way of working. I believe we've done that over the last years. That gives you that opportunity to moving towards a Sadio Mane when we was at Southampton, a Heung-min Son when we're at Tottenham, a Christopher Nkunku when we're at Leipzig. All of these players that see the benefit of coming to you, that kind of place their development in your hands, and that responsibility you should always see.
Excuse me to interrupt, but you didn't were in Leipzig when they did the Haaland transfer, but you were to those old stars too. So you have the experience. Like, I love that you are commenting that part.
Yeah, you know that it's been part of my job and my responsibility for a long time, and that's where creating a way of working that the market can see and the players can see and believe in, because you know, you need to have tangibles, you need to have examples of your work that you've committed to a player coming into your environment that have gone on to achieve big things, and they're the type of talent and talented individuals you want to be working with. So yeah, of course, it's important to show successes of the process, and that's an important factor in the modern game, because it's so competitive now. Everybody's operating similar strategies to recruit young players, and you must find a way of optimizing your ability to sign the best.
How would be your approach to a family that it has this young star that they haven't developed yet, but they believe that they have talent to play in a highest level? What would be your approach to those families?
Well, it's an approach we actively use. So for me, it's evidence-based. I think everyone can tell a nice story, have a clever narrative, and that's why you have to evidence your work. You know, when I set out in Monaco in particular, we wanted to create a young, dynamic squad, and we wanted to play a controlled, aggressive, dynamic rhythm of the game. And we can evidence that now. We have data markers that we can evidence to the parents. We can evidence where we are in terms of national ranking of age, debutants to the team, amount of academy players into the team per annum. So it's very evidence-based. It's very transparent. I like to be honest. I know sometimes it's not the best sales pitch to tell players that it's going to be hard. The environment can be uncomfortable in a good way. We're going to challenge the player to be the best he can be. Because, you know, the players like to hear everything that is nice and good for them. But we want to be honest, so when the player arrives, that there's no surprises. We commit, and we will commit solid and strong investment into top practitioners to enhance the player, and to bring him to that kind of super club level. We'll make them commitments, and we can evidence how we've stuck to them and how we've delivered on them commitment, and where them players are currently today by coming into that process and into those environments that we build.
So this is the era, like you mentioned, big data, statistics. What kind of technology system does Monaco use?
Well, we try where we can to build our own. We have some generic platforms as well that we utilize that other clubs do. A lot of the time we try and scrape the data ourselves to create bespoke models to us. We do like to measure. What I would say, we are data informed, not data led. We still utilize our experience of our practitioners, our intuition, our knowledge base, our pool of knowledge across the whole organization. But we do like data because it's emotionless. Football stressful. The results come thick and fast. And in the haze of some of them results, you need an ability to take a step back, to be objective, to align against your principles of work. And that's where the data can be really useful for us. And once again, have them markers that we can evidence internally when we make our reviews after the end of the season. But we can also evidence to the marketplace and say, these are things we do because this isn't us telling you, this is an accurate measure of our work.
How do you handle and how do you manage all the information is right now in football? I mean, of course, I'm sure that you don't know, just watch like League One matches or Premier League matches. I guess you would watch a lot of matches around the world. Like, how is the day of Paul Mitchell, and what kind of football you consume?
Yeah, my wife would probably be better answering this one, to be fair. She's
always a woman.
Yeah, but without a wonderful woman by your side, I don't think I could do what I do, to be honest. So I'm very fortunate. But it's the days are long. To be honest, I'm up early and I finish late. I think people have referenced that about working with me before. I like information. I like to understand all of the contexts of the performance of the team, of the individuals that we're looking at, from the environment. So I do like to have a lot of information. I know that there's so much available. I need to shrink it to a more edible and digestible size, because speed is important for me with so much information coming into me at one time. And that's where having good people comes in. That's where having good people, because good people design intelligent, contextual processes that can have an end result very quickly, but also measure efficiently every aspect of the data we need, whether that's injuries, fatigue, CPK measurements, player loading, output physically from a game, pre-match build-up, analysis within the players that we're trying to recruit, the KPIs, metrics. There's so many ports and points of information now. That's why the process is really important, and the people that drive them are equally important to bring the end result in an edible format that I can consume and make good decisions from.
Paul, you have had on your history of Monaco history one of the best Mexican players ever, which is Rafa Marquez. Do you see Liga MX as a growth of kind of players for your league?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think the league's getting stronger and stronger. I think we see Alvarez in Ajax now performing extremely well on the European platform and in a big club in Holland. And like I say, I see the league and I see the practitioners within it. My first port of call when I was restructuring Cercle Bruges in the same way that we did in Monaco was to hire Carlos from Club America because of his intellect, his qualities, his ability to have process and intelligence at the forefront of his decision making, and that just shows the quality of the league in general is rising.
We already talked about how you can address to players and to the families of those players. How is the kind of people you want to be surrounded with, but of course a person key in your project, it will be the head coach. How is the process to pick one of the best coach for your team?
Well, I've been fortunate to work with some really good ones from different cultures and backgrounds and experiences. The big thing for me is clarity on what you want to see the team look like, and then clarity on how you want the day-to-day to operate within your structure. And all structures are different. All structures can actually be successful in a different way, but it's understanding yourself and what you want. What does the club want? How should the team look? What are the principles of play that you're implementing from the academy to the first team, and then hiring the coach into that culture? That is the key for me. Having a process when you're looking for your coach that can, what isn't always easy, that can have moments in time that can expose the potential new coach to key members of staff, seeing if there's a synergy of working processes, because that's important in the day-to-day, and looking as well and objectifying the coach, looking at not only how he tells you he plays, but looking at the devil in the detail of the data, that he does play that way, where he is on the performance metrics of the principles of play. Does he align with what we're building within the team and how the team should look and feel? And then doing our due diligence like we do on a player, the social due diligence, tactical due diligence, how many players has he integrated from the academy to the first team? Everything that aligns with your philosophy, you should be looking for seeing in your next potential coach. And, you're always on the lookout, because one thing I've learned in my history in football is the coach will always leave. He will leave because results are not good, or he will leave because he's doing extremely well and he will move on to a new club. So we always have to be prepared and succession planning appropriately. But trying to find that parallel of your strategy, your playing principles, your way of working, your philosophy of work, and your ethos is important when you're picking the coach.
So I have to ask you this. Have you watched Ted Lasso?
I have. Well,
how much of reality we can see in that football show?
Not so much, unfortunately. From my experience, not so much. I would love to work with Ted Lasso for sure. He would make the day bright every day, I have a feeling. So
what characteristic you look in a head coach? Like more the motivator as Ted Lasso, or the strategic one, the chess mind?
Yeah, they come in all different formats. And I've worked with different ones as well. So it's hard to say which ones you kind of align the success model to. I think now the modern game has changed. I think the coach needs to have really good soft skills and management skills of the team and the individuals within the team. I think the players demand more information more than ever. They want to know the why. They're not as easily led in terms of do this, do that, and they follow. They want the information of how this benefits me. Why are we doing this? What's the intellect and intelligence behind, and how is it going to enhance the team and also me as a player? So I think the modern coaches that I've worked with, that I've seen being successful, have that skill of building relationships, of trust through intelligence, through being a good coach on the grass, delivering inspiring sessions. I think the players now, they need to be inspired every day. They need the rhythm to be at its optimum. They know their careers come and go very quickly. So I think that soft skill, that man management skill is right up there as a priority. And the key element is that delivery on the grass. Whether you're a big name or you're a small name, you can win the players, you can engage the players if you're good on the grass. You bring energy, you bring quality, you enhance them as a player, as an individual and a person. They're the key aspects for me. And your delivery and the way you carry yourself. And the biggest thing, be consistent. Players struggle with inconsistency. So the consistency, your delivery, your communication, your ideas has to be really on point, because you can quickly lose the group by being inconsistent over a period of time.
Paul, how do you think we can implement all these philosophies that the clubs in Europe are established and in their organizations here in Liga MX?
I think it can be what I've seen and what I've been very fortunate to witness. You can implement these types of strategies anywhere in the world. I remember before I arrived at Red Bull, I think their investment was 10 years in Brazil. They never left level 4. And it was a change. It was a change of how we was working and operating in the Brazilian market. We rehired a super sporting director in Thiago Scoro. And we set about actively changing the culture, not trying to be too radical, because sometimes when you do create change, people try and do everything on day one. and some cultures and environments are too fragile to do that. So softly implementing with the advice of experts within the league that understand the nuances of the cultural aspect, of the league aspects of how the speed needs to be in your changes, and then building that strategy from short term to medium to long term. So I think it can be achieved anywhere. I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I've been a part of that in multiple leagues. It's all about really wanting and believing that you want to modernize, you want to bring good practice and good process, and being prepared to take some criticism, being prepared to know that success isn't just one straight line, and committing to that from the start. That for me is what I've seen all of the great organizations I've been fortunate to work with do from the start of their success program.
How do you define leadership?
Oh, great question. I think the great leaders that I've seen carry natural integrity. I think it brings belief. So for me, a great leader is someone that you respect and has integrity, and you can believe that when they speak, they will follow through with their actions. I think that's how I look at leadership. That's how I see leadership, and that's how I would define it. Leadership is integrity.
Paul, you're going to return to the UEFA Champions League qualification process next season. How do you guys handling that in Monaco?
Yeah, well, it was heartbreaking last year. If you watched the game, 180 minutes over in the second leg, nothing between the two teams, two very good teams, Shakhtar and ourselves. I think we were much the better team in the second leg. And then to concede an own goal in the fashion that we did, what was an incredible finish from our fullback that he could never replicate again if he tried, was a little bit heartbreaking. But the team is young. It was their first exposure to these types of games. I think the lesson learned, the experience will help a lot. We'll come back fresh. We had a really great debrief from this season. The players know the expectations. They know to stick to their programs, their individual programs. They know they also need some mental rest and recovery. And we'll be excited and looking forward to the playoffs this year. And we'll be ready. We'll be ready. We do a lot of pre-planning. We do a lot of schedule planning. And we make sure we optimize every single day.
Well, thank you so much, Paul, for giving us a great journey in how the business of football is developing and also how we can apply these ideas to our teams in Liga MX. It was a pleasure to talk to you about football. And ladies and gentlemen, Paul Mitchell, Sports Director of AS Mónaco.
And enjoy the conference.
Thank you. Mitchell and la Monsalve, estamos out.
Gracias, Adri. Extraordinaria plática con Paul Mitchell, un directivo realmente revolucionario y sobre todo creo que toca puntos fundamentales, ¿no? En la trascendencia del negocio del fútbol, pero también la importancia de cómo hacer que un jugador pueda llegar a una estratosfera mucho más grande que la liga local.
¿Sabes qué me encantó? O sea, cómo está convencido del perfil que quiere para su director técnico. Pero una vez que lo encuentra, sabe que se tiene que preparar porque tenga buenos o malos resultados, se le va a ir. El famoso plan B. ¿No?
Totalmente.
Bueno.
Creo que ha sido extraordinaria esta plática.
La invitación para que sigan la conversación, únanse a nosotros usando el hashtag SummitLigaMX y consultando los contenidos en summit.ligamx.net. Vamos a la pausa y regresamos con más.
Renuncia a ser solo un espectador y conviértete en otro jugador en caliente.mx. Cientos de deportes durante todo el año y los mejores eventos en vivo. Descarga la app, regístrate y obtén 400 pesos de regalo. Caliente.mx. Más acción, más diversión.
Hoy en día nos vemos rodeados de una inmensa cantidad de plástico que generan grandes desechos. Es por eso que nos propusimos a transformar el espacio en el que vivimos. Un paso a la vez, recolectando y transformando grandes cantidades de residuos plásticos, creamos una colección única, Charlie Recycle. Pequeños grandes pasos que definen nuestro futuro. ¿Y tú? ¿Qué paso vas a dar hoy? Únete a la revolución.
La historia se construye con cada paso. Son destellos que quedan marcados en la memoria del tiempo. Momentos que llevamos tatuados en la piel. Recordamos de dónde venimos, para darle un sentido hacia dónde vamos. Nuestra herencia se llama innovación. Presentamos un balón que se transforma en nuestro legado, para seguir haciendo historia. Void, 100 años de innovación.
Renuncia a ser solo un espectador y conviértete en otro jugador en caliente.mx. Cientos de deportes durante todo el año y los mejores eventos en vivo. Descarga la app, regístrate y obtén 400 pesos de regalo. Caliente.mx. Más acción, más diversión.
Nuevamente, muy buenos días y muchas gracias por seguir con nosotros. Recuerden comentar con el hashtag #SummitLigaMX. Y ahora, si les parece, vamos con una charla imperdible de fútbol femenino.
Sin lugar a dudas, desarrollar una marca es complicado, pero saber aprovechar el mejor momento por el que atraviesa este deporte puede ser de absoluta ventaja. Desde Los Ángeles, Reino Unido y las oficinas de CONCACAF, descubramos más de este mundo y sus alcances.
Good morning, afternoon to our esteemed panelists and to everyone watching us today at El Foro Summit Liga MX 2022. Thank you for joining us for what will be a fantastic discussion around building brand awareness and probably a lot of focus on the current state of women's football and what is needed to ensure it becomes self-sustainable in the long term. My name is Heidi Pellerano. I am the Chief Commercial Officer at CONCACAF. For context, we're one of 6 FIFA confederations. I am charged with all revenue generation for the confederation, from media rights to sponsorships to licensing, also with a special focus on growing women's football and our new women's competitions ecosystem, which we launched in 2020. Prior to joining CONCACAF, I worked on the agency side, developing sponsorship strategy for top global brands, including American Express, Nokia, and PepsiCo. I have the great privilege to lead this conversation today with Marjana Bogdanovic, Head of